at all of us, the working hours have gone up for all of us. I'm sure Nitin is also clocking in more hours. And there is no
that's
switching off.
universal.
Yeah, that's universal. That's right. There's no
That's
switching off
universal.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, what I expect our industry, and I say our as in, when I belonged there, is to somehow know how to create 48 hours out of 24. Because believe it or not, in academics, we are putting in 24 hours. I mean, who would have ever thought of that? Okay.
Yeah, and as clients also, we make them work 24/7.
Yes.
I like that. I like that so much, Okay.
At least I've got somebody client admitting on
on camera.
I know, Nitin, you should.
इसका recording भेजना मुझे.
We'll play it up at least at the PRCI.
I tell you, this is so good. Okay, let's get into the mood.
Ma'am, I think we're good to go. Gaurav?
Yes, we are good to go.
Ankita.
Recording has started and we are live on YouTube as well.
Sure. We shall start now, of course. Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone, and a hearty welcome to all of you to our panel discussion on public relations in the post-COVID world, trends and challenges. I am Ankita Bharti, Assistant Professor, Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. Lockdown due to COVID-19 was something that no one had actually planned for, as people were confined to their homes to fight this coronavirus and pandemic. Most economies across the world went into recession. In fact, millions of people lost their jobs. And this pandemic has forced businesses to shut shops and revamp their business models also. And of course, this has also affected the whole public relations industry, because there has been a lot of transformation around with marketing and the media mix, which is changing rapidly in the current scenario. Because this year itself has witnessed events, we have launches and conversations moving to all these online places. So the question is, how has COVID-19 actually impacted the PR industry in India? What were the trends and challenges that we have? And to discuss further on the topic today, we have with us Mr. Nitin Mantri, Group CEO, Airbnb, and the President of International Communications Consultancy Organization. Well, he was also the President of the Public Relations Consultant Association of India for 5 years. That was from 2015 to 20. Welcome, sir. Mr. Partha Ghosh, Vice President and Head Communications, Samsung India and Southwest Asia Public Affairs, Corporate Communications and Reputation Management Strategist. Mr. Ghosh is a media and communication industry veteran with over more than 26 years of experience in the media industry and has worked with, top media organizations, namely India Today Group, The Telegraph, Hindu Business Line, and Business Standard as well. Welcome to you too, sir. Then we have Dr. Samir Kapoor with us, Director at Factors. Well, Mr. Kapoor has also over 25 years of experience in the field of public relations, corporate communication, public affairs, investor relations, and CSR also. Well, he has worked across a range of companies that includes 197. He has been a part of a lot of startups also, and it includes MobiKwik, Rivigo, Ola, Oyo, and conglomerates, of course, like Tata's, the Vedantas, and Ashok Leyland, to name a few. Welcome to you too, sir. Well, and of course, the session will be moderated by Dr. Maithili Ganju, Dean FMEH. Well, I would like to talk something about her. Like, after doing a PhD in sociology from JNU, she joined the advertising world and has over 2 decades of work experience with leading media organizations, which include JWT, Ogilvy and Metro, Dainik Jagran Group, and Group M, before actually joining academics for full time. Welcome, ma'am. It's an honor to have all of you today with us. So I welcome all of you today for this discussion. And before, without wasting much time, I would just pass on the mic to ma'am. But there is a small announcement for all the participants. Well, you can write all your questions in the comment section that would be given on the right side, and it will be answered in the end of the session. Well, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ankita. I begin by extending a very warm welcome to all my guests today, as well as the participants for this particular panel discussion on behalf of Manav Rachna Management and the School of Faculty of Media Studies and Humanities, especially the Department of Journalism and Media. We have today the panel discussion that has been organized on PR trends and challenges in the post-COVID times. This particular series, it's a part of a series that we have started, and this series is called The Media and the New Normal. So what we are trying to do here, the whole purpose is to get people from the industry, the stalwarts of the industry, to come and talk to us about how the media industry has, what is it that they have learned, what are the challenges they have faced, and how have they re-strategized and, now moved on into this new normal, which is here to stay, and how well has it adjusted, and what are the new strategies, and what are the learnings, and what are the, great sort of challenges that they have overcome in order to be taking off in the new direction. So if I may start by saying this, and that too in front of all of you who really are doing it, the way one can look at this COVID as a challenge, one can see there was a silver lining, that the silver lining here lay in the fact that because of the circumstances, which, as Ankita said, nobody ever even imagined would be there, we were able to basically find, or it was the brands which were able to locate in this whole environment an opportunity to connect, to have an emotional comeback, or an emotional sort of, not a comeback, but giving prominence to that emotional binding that every brand essentially wants to do. And many times what happens, the selling, marketing, advertising is what is more seen. Here was an opportunity where everybody was home, everybody was in this uncertain environment. However, we have seen that, the brands did make this effort to connect. And in my understanding, and you will bear me on this one, it was the PR that led this way. And we saw this coming of PR into the limelight, in a way that is very fascinating. And the purpose today really is to hear from you people, how you were able to deal with this entire thing and, give us this peek into your lives. I'll start with asking Nitin to perhaps help us sort of quickly conceptualize the kind of challenges that you faced in India, globally as well, and how has it fallen together, and where are we today as we move on with this new normal? Over to you, Nitin.
Thank you, Maitri. So, firstly, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I think yes, they were big challenges. I mean, we are in throes of a pandemic that has pretty much changed the world as we know it. And I think you named your series about the new normal, but I think I really call it the new abnormal, right? It is not, it is the new abnormal, but it is here to stay, right? It is here to stay for a while. Um, but at the same time, I think I must say that there is a lot of hope, positivity, and optimism, and I'm going to speak from that perspective. Yes, there have been loads of challenges, right? When we all went into a lockdown, we didn't actually, we didn't know how we're going to work together. We didn't have, a lot of us had not. We all had some kind of remote working and stuff, but we never knew that everything had to go remote. So even a product launch had to be done remotely. Even connecting, brainstorming for a new ideas had to be done remotely with people. Even taking care of people had to be done remotely. We've had a new batch from our interns who joined us in June, I think. They'll probably complete, I am hoping not, but they'll probably complete a year without having seen the office, right? So, and those people who joined in April, I think will definitely complete a year without seeing the office. And there might be a few people who will probably join us and leave us without seeing the office. So you can understand that it's totally, different kind of situation. But I think most PR firms reacted really well. I think from day one, and Samir would probably agree, we were working absolutely without any glitches. I remember we went on lockdown on 16th of March, and we were on, we were working seamlessly on that day onwards. So till date, which is now we are on almost 9 months plus, we worked seamlessly since then. Challenges have remained. I think, I still think eventually when we come back, we'll be coming back into a more hybrid structure, right? I don't think remote working is going to go away completely, but it has its positives, and that's why I always look at the positive. I think the positive is that we can also now look at a much larger talent pool today, right? Talent can now, I think we'll all be more open to having talent sit anywhere, right? And maybe coming once in a while, etc., etc. Some talent, I'm not saying everybody. But getting back to offices for sure, in my view, we must go as an agency. You need to sit together, you need to create together, you need to brainstorm together. Those elements have to come back at some point. You asked me, so these are some of the challenges, but you asked me what are the kind of opportunities that are coming up. I think some of the big picture gains has been globally as well. Um, I think it's our time to shine. I believe, from a comms perspective, it is our time. We all been, as the dust is settling, I think the comms industry is emerging stronger than ever. Some of the best work has come out during this time. I actually feel so, and I'll share a couple of examples later on. What's the some of the trick trends? We always knew that digital transformation was going to happen. It just got accelerated by, I think, 3 years or 4 years, right? So with social distancing norms in place, brands will have to aim establishing a connection with audiences through digital platforms. And again, Partha will probably talk about it, but the digital will become the key norm, the new normal now in a lot of way brands approach comms and agencies, right? Even when we start working, we'll probably be, like I said, more in a hybrid model. However, using technology comes with its challenges. When I say challenge, it must be ethically designed and protected so that we can work without sacrificing data privacy. That's very, very important, right? Somebody also asked me recently that with technology, will we lose creativity? So I don't think so. Creativity is more important than ever, and I think divergent thinking, creative reshaping of PR strategies will become our hallmark as we go. We've tried harder to be more creative, and that's why I said some of the best campaigns have come this time. Media, who will stand by the truth, and I think we've seen, in my view, an infodemic of misinformation during COVID. And if the credibility of the media diminishes, how will we narrate our brand story? So therefore, owned media will get more important, and the best example will be Samsung. And again, Partha will talk about it, so I'm not going to talk about that. But owned media will become very important, and also the PR agencies should also play a crucial role by getting the right message to the right people at the right time and defending not only the truth but people who tell it. So, which is the journalists. So I think journalists will be probably look at that more importantly. And before I finish, very important, the last trend, which I've talked about a lot and I feel personally very passionate about, is corporate purpose. And I think corporate purpose, we did a survey amongst all global survey. Corporate purpose came out on a scale of 1 to 10, came out at 7. And that's really, really high. It was 6 last year, 7 this year. We do a Brands in Motion global study that showed 83% of respondents believe that brands can provide stability during this climate of uncertainty, right? In India, that figure was closer at about 53%. People wanted a brand to have purpose and functionality. So brands that will survive and thrive will have to do that tightrope walk between financial sustainability and a compassionate people first approach. So they need to be really authentic in their communications. So I'm going to stop here. I don't want to take up too much time. I have a lot of examples I can talk about later on purpose, but I'll stop here and let Samir and Partha.
I think you took Partha's name. Even I want to get Partha in, especially after seeing his LinkedIn profile yesterday, where he's happily with his gold cups and other things. I'm going to ask Partha to share his story of success, because it's so good to see happiness and celebration in these times. Over to you, Partha. Quickly tell us about what happened and lead us into your happy times.
Can you hear me, Maithili?
Yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Nitin. You really put it very, succinctly and very nicely. Look at it from the point of a brand and a corporation. Now, let me quickly tell you a little bit about Samsung. Samsung, is a South Korean brand. We came to India in 1995. So this year, in fact, this month, we are celebrating 25 years in India.
Wow.
And in these 25 years, we have become a $10 billion company. And, we are also the #1 brand in televisions and smartphones and a lot of other things, a lot of, white goods and all. So we have a huge base of consumers in the country. Almost, all homes in India, every home in India might be having some Samsung touch or the other, right? Even the Prime Minister, when he came to inaugurate our factory in Noida, he mentioned this. So our challenge was very different because, we have a huge base of customers. We have a huge business to run. Now, suddenly, on the 24th of March, I think that was the day when the main lockdown happened.
Yes.
Everything around us went silent, right? And business stopped functioning. When business stopped functioning, the marketing functions also, cease. They don't spend money to, reach out to consumer through advertisements and other kind of content. But as a company, we could not have stopped, connecting with the consumers. That engagement has to continue for business continuity because one day the business will start, right? So until then, our PR was about telling what our company is bringing as products, devices, like smartphones or televisions. We used to do those big launches and the press releases and press conferences. All that stopped. The media also was not interested in, listening to those stories. Media is always via media. I always say, I've worked with media for a long time, but media is always a via media. Through the media, we are actually reaching out to the consumer or other external stakeholders, which could be the government or the community or whatsoever. Now, if we stop connecting with the consumer when the business starts reopening and one day the unlock had to begin, we would not have been prepared, to continue with the business the way. Plus, the consumers also required a lot of information. So our focus, so what was the challenge really at that time? We saw that as a huge opportunity for the communications business, the communications function. And we got in together. And what was our objective at that time? We had to sustain the connect with the internal as well as external stakeholders. Internal stakeholders, means our employees. We have a huge base of 70,000 employees in the country. And then also ensure that the consumer trust and love for the brand and for the corporation, it remains intact. And if possible, it grows. We did not know at that time, what it's going to happen. But, we had to continue with that, engagement with the consumer. So the context was that, we were not able to hard sell products because that was not the mood. The media was not interested. So we were not doing any marketing. The media was interested only in COVID-related stories. And we had to keep, informing the consumers about what we were doing and also help them, to use our products. Like, for example, we were not able to do customer service, right? So if somebody had to service something on their own, can we help them out, So those kind of, information, it was very important for them, for a company like us to, continue to do. So what we did at that time and what Nitin was alluding to was that, we really tried to create our own content. Now, I'm a great advocate of, creating own content, not just because, I was a journalist for 20 years, but also because, we all realize that everything has moved digital. And with digital, you can use your own platforms like your Twitter handle or your Instagram or your Facebook to reach out to the consumer directly. So you don't need to go through the minds of the journalist, which you need to influence. You can create your own content and reach out to the consumers and give them the information that you want to give really, right? So when you go to the media, they would ask a lot of questions. They would put their own perspective. They would talk about other companies. They will make it an industry story. Those are the challenges that all PR people, face, right? But when you have your own channels, you can reach out to the consumers directly. So this was there was a huge opportunity for us. So we started creating those content. But how did we go about doing that? So we have something called the Samsung Newsroom, and we started creating content for the Samsung Newsroom. Okay, and Newsroom is a portal of news stories about Samsung. But since we could not make different kind of stories, what we did is we told stories about our own employees, our own leaders. We allowed journalists to engage with us on the newsroom. We also got these Samsung members, which is a community of 10 million fans in India. So we asked them to share their experiences, and then we started creating really interesting human stories. Which they were very human. They were warm stories. They could connect with the consumers, and even journalists, were willing to engage with those stories. So the award that you are referring to was, the effort that the team and also, our agency partners, we put together, and we were able to, make a good impact. So what basically I'm trying to say that, if we should not see this as just a challenge for the industry, but like you mentioned, it's a huge opportunity. The consumers had already been shifting to the digital medium or the social, medium, but they were largely the millennials and the Gen Zs, right? Which is the younger generation. Our students, identify they're always on the screen, right? So their life is all about the screen, and but even the seniors and the elders, in the absence of media like newspapers, for example, during the lockdown, they also shifted to more video-based information on social media and on digital platforms like the portals of newspapers. So the newspaper industry also shifted a lot towards digital during this time.
Yes.
So that is the the new normal, or the new abnormal, as Nitin was calling. We call it the next normal. Okay, so that is what has happened now, and I see that this is a huge opportunity for communication professionals, not just for journalists, but also for PR professionals, also for content creators, to now look at this opportunity and prepare themselves for the next boom, which is going to come very soon.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, Partha, I absolutely like those small things you are throwing up, which is something interesting for everybody who is interested in media to pick up and understand that we are in that creative phase right now. We are a creative industry, as in the media is, but we are also in a creative phase where there's so much opportunity which has to be really picked up and looked at, and there has to be a attitudinal shift as well, because you're right, one media is giving way to so many other types of opportunities that are available on the digital platform. It's not only making it legitimate now, in terms of time, the kind of time we spend while those discussions are going on, it's not, right or not right to be in the virtual land, but the fact remains that that is our own that's a space where we all already are now pretty much embedded. And therein lies how we kind of look after issues like Nitin said, we have to look at the misinformation, disinformation scenario also, and take care of privacy. But at the same time, look at this way to connect. And Samir, I'm sure you also want to add to this, and I would like to hear your story also before we pick up on these things and make it a discussion.
Thank you for that. And pleasure to share the e-platform with Nitin and Partha. Both of them have actually covered a lot of topics on this. So like Nitin said, for an agency, Like Adfactors, as you're aware, we are India's largest PR firm, employing almost 800 employees in the PR space, spread over 40 different locations. The biggest thing was, how do you manage, such diverse and geographically and across India, these kind of people who've never worked remotely. They've always come to an office, and the work from home prior to March of 2020 was seen as a extra way of taking a leave, right? As in, people, the seniors were not very keen to give work from home. It was seen as if someone has some particular job and that's the time that he used to go in for a work from home. That shifted to, as you started off saying a new normal. Nobody thought that it's a black swan moment, as we call it in finance. It happens once in 100 years. The previous one that happened 10 years back was primarily a financial turmoil that happened, started off from US, then of course the entire globe kind of caught aware, but there were still people going physically. There was no lockdown as we all know it. So the first thing that for us, and Nitin of course was PRCI head at that time, he made sure that the communication that happened to the PR instead of mentioning it once in a quarter, he started doing it every week, and all of us were part of it. There were multiple discussions on right from the element of how do you make sure that the mental sickness or the mental stability of the people in this kind of thing is, as far as our fraternity is concerned, is intact. And there were a lot of events done. There are a lot of efforts done by PRCI, and Nitin of course led it from the front. Even at Factors, our promoter made sure that there are not going to be any job loss, so that as far as the financial insecurity is concerned amongst the younger audience, that can be kind of taken care of. The challenges were there, like Partha said, there was no certainty as to till when is it going to last, and therefore there was a pause on multiple activities, and PR was considered a very discretionary spend by a lot of clients, and they thought, let me just either pause it or reduce the payouts and other things. So that, of course, was the first challenge that we had to overcome in the first quarter. By like Nathan started off, there is hope. We are happy that we are back to our pre-COVID numbers. Things are have started looking good, but from a way the public relation has transformed. Something that Nathan also mentioned, that we were expecting a transformation to digital that was going to happen in 2025, right? We were thinking that a lot of new players are going to come in the hybrid space using audiovisual as a tool, but that was fast forwarded in 2020 alone. And like he mentioned, like Partha mentioned, the only millennials or Gen Zs were using a lot of these devices or apps, to make their payments, to order from Amazon. Just to give you an example, the innovation that Disney Hotstar was able to get the downloads in 5 months, that Netflix took 7 years to do that. So what Disney did in 5 months, Netflix took 7 years to do that. So I'm just giving you a reference point purely from a brand perspective as to how the entire thing worked. The second thing that Partha also mentioned is very, very important. This is what the students can learn. The entire element of just writing of a press release is, that era is about to die, or if it is not already dead. You need to understand, how do you write for horses for courses, right? So a Twitter will have a different style of writing. Insta will have more of the visual impact. LinkedIn will have a totally different form of a 300 worder that you write. Facebook, of course, will be different ways of writing. And media is not the only target audience that from a PR perspective that you need to reach out to. There are influencers or bloggers which are genuine target audience now, and of course Samsung has been doing that. There are other brands that have done that. They are now looking at not only mega influencers, they are looking at micro influencers, people like you, me, people who are, let's say, known in our community, where the engagement rates are relatively higher. So Nitin is a genuine influencer in the PR space. I'm sure any brand who wants to influence the PR community, Nitin Mantri will be the first person to to reach out to. And therefore his media, which is where he's the medium, his media becomes a very, very important tool for me. So it is important for me to influence him, and that is what these the younger kids can learn from. So it is not only about writing a press release, it is about understanding how audiovisual medium works, how content work. It has been, there has been reams and reams written in the academic world, content is king, but it is now actually becoming,
Yeah.
king. And how do you make sure that you write for the right audience? The lingos that you use for Gen Zs will be different for the lingos
Yes.
that you use for people at my age, because we may not be understanding that lingo. Also, something that Partha sir just talked about, that data analytics become very, very important, because even segmenting of the market becomes important. So what you write on Insta may not work on TikTok, right? And therefore, and TikTok is catering to a different segment altogether, Insta is creating to a different segment altogether. And
Segment, yeah.
both those segments are profitable segment, it depends, and Samsung has those kind of devices, or other products, which caters to different segments. So for young PR professional, the need primarily is to understand, what are the skills needed. Data analytics is definitely going to be one. But what is going to be common is storytelling. Ultimately, it is all about how we tell that story. But
Story.
how are you telling that story becomes very, very important. Which media are you using becomes very important. Understanding of, so let's say you have to do something for your brand for on Insta, you need to understand not only the audiovisual, you also need to understand the coloring impact. You just need to understand what exactly are you going to do there. And you will not have, like Nitin said, you're working remotely, you'll not have a creative director back to you saying, okay, why you make the color a little red or a little blue or a little green. So these are some of the things that definitely, the new skill sets that are going to emerge. We need to understand, and like you started off with your opening comment, PR needs to understand what are the business objectives. And I think that is where PR has now taken a center seat, because advertising was purely from a paid perspective, which got paused. And now PR is able to understand not only about the brand, the marketing, but also the business issues that were there, right? So employee communication became very, very important. Like Partha said,
Very
70,000
important.
employees in India, you have to engage them, right? So there has to be engagement strategy, which a PR guys will be, or a PR agency will be able to devise better, at least strategize better. So critical thinking on your feet are some of the new skill sets that people now will have to adapt to. While of course they will have to continue understanding how to tell a better story from whatever data has been given to them. So yeah, thank you from.
Yeah, thanks, Samir. Absolutely well, put, because, one important thing which I'm getting out of this discussion is how we have to move from this so-called structured way of doing things into this whole fluid and more emotion-led or emotive, being genuine in your communication, which is actually going to have an impact on your audiences, on people. So it's like, in academic terms, when you try to put it in a philosophical sort of way, you really talking about the postmodern era now, where there are no structures, there are no sort of this is media, this media will only say this kind of thing, but it is essentially really about content. Partha and I were talking about this some time back. It is really about this content which has the emotion that the brand represents, or the brand holders sort of represent, and that is what is seeking out that connect with the audience.
Yeah, I just
While
have
you
a
were
point
there
to make
talking.
on that, Maitri. I just have a point.
Yeah.
What you said is right, is absolutely right. You look at a brand called Tesla, which
Yeah.
primarily has done away with, they were not doing any marketing at all, right? But
Mhm.
the market capitalization of Tesla has just crossed 500 billion US dollars, right? And during this COVID
Yeah.
time, they've grown phenomenally. In fact, their market cap put is almost equivalent to the other nine auto manufacturers put together. So
Mhm.
this is something that, like you mentioned, it is not only about, but it is about the content that their CEO and others are kind of trying to put in. And of course it's about the product as well, but the market capitalization is not only about the product, it is about the the overall organization. And that is one of the things. If you get your content right, of course your product is good, the investors, which is one of the important stakeholders, will actually give you a lot of kudos, and they will make sure that your market cap goes up.
Okay, all right. So I wanted Nitin to, you had promised that you will talk about the purpose, and I really wanted you to speak about it and kind of bring it alive for all of us to understand the importance now as media scholars here. Nitin, could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes, sure. Happy to. So I'll give you some couple of examples on purpose, and I'm not going to use a Samsung example because I'm sure Partha can give that better than me. But so, like I mentioned, the what consumers need are wanting today really is a mix of, they just don't want a product. They want that the product or the functionality they get from the product has an attachment to a larger purpose or a larger goal of that organization, right? For example, company like Microsoft, the whole work they've done around carbon emissions, and they've given a statement that they'll reduce carbon emissions by to 2030. So now that's whatever they do, whether it's their partners, their suppliers, their own people internally, they're all working towards that larger purpose, right? A couple of examples on some of the work that has happened, some of the awards that some campaigns have won in the recent part. Avon, for example, Avon has something called the Avon Foundation for Women, right? They released about $1 million in new grants to many service and charity organizations. Now, they launched a program through the Avon Foundation called Isolated Not Alone. That was a response to the surge in domestic violence cases in the wake of the coronavirus lockdown. As you're aware, everybody was home during the lockdown, and domestic violence cases were peaking during the.
Reported to be, yes.
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 So their initiative was aimed at providing support for over 250,000 women at risk and children who were affected by rising domestic abuse rates. And these grants were shared across 37 countries, including India, Brazil, Mexico, Germany, Philippines, for example. So that it was a great campaign. It was fabulous. The amount of work they did around raising awareness and worked with grassroots organizations to help women and children. Similarly, brands like Dettol, right? So what they did during the coronavirus was great, but what they're doing over the last 5 years as a purpose-driven brand is running this program called Swachh Banega Swachh India, the BSI Dettol BSI campaign. They partnered with the prime ministers. They heard the prime minister's call of Swachh India, and till date, they two states, Bihar and UP, have been made ODF free, open defecation free. They've reduced diarrhea by about 60% in those states. They've planted some thousands or lakhs of trees. They've tied up with Google to have a toilet locator. So if you're going and you don't find a toilet, you can actually go on Google and find the closest toilet. So you can. So they've taken these things to increase hygiene, right? And that's been a great campaign. It was one of the top 40 campaigns in the world this year from India. So all these things are happening extensively, like really, really fabulous work that is happening around purpose. So there are multiple examples like this. It's not just, I just gave two examples. And Samsung, of course, Partha can talk about Samsung. They've done some amazing work around purpose as well.
I think this has been a very good shift that has come, because I remember in my times we would actually look at social campaigns as being different from the brand campaigns. We kind of felt that one was there primarily to sell, the other was there to bring about a behavior change. Whereas now one sees the convergence, which is how actually change happens when we do not think that one is different from the other, and the brands become big participants in bringing about that change, because it's really about all, and it's about a change. And I think COVID time was the time when everybody sort of slowed down a little bit to think and introspect and find out that space where the connect is more human than just sort of economic or market led. Partha,
Yeah,
we've been
absolutely,
referring
absolutely
to.
on that. Just one more point to what Nitin was just saying,
Yes.
because
Yes.
ESG has become a very, very inclusive thing in what we do. It's not only about like you mentioned, it's not only about the economic value that you are adding, but it's also about the intangible. So, things like Black Lives Matters actually took US by storm a couple of months back, and
Yeah.
so diversity, equity, inclusivity,
Yes.
large corporate, like Nitin mentioned in his example. So more and more investors, more and more PE funds are now investing in companies that are more environmentally conscious. They are also socially responsible, and of course their governance is absolutely intact. And therefore you will see this kind of intangibles becoming more and more important. And that's why public relation as a field will gain more prominence, because we understand these subjects far better than our other communication partners. Because I'm not saying they don't understand, but we are at the center of managing all of this. And therefore PR becomes the center stage when it comes to the comms industry that is going to take the lead in this form of communication.
The emotion, the emotion connect, which is so essential in our. So fine, what I'm going to do now is not hog the entire sort of Q&A session, but I'm going to request Ankita to tell us if there are any questions that need to be answered, and we'll take that from you. Ankita, over to you.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much. Well, we have a lot of questions here. We would just start with the first one. Well, this is to Samir sir. Their question is, social media influencers have fundamentally changed the role of public relations when it comes to reaching today's audience. Well, how have you been mobilizing them to get positive content for your clients?
So, social media has definitely changed the way we influence and we reach out to these people. They are the publication in themselves. They are their own media. That means they have their own YouTube channel. They have their own handles on which they, or Insta pages where they talk about themselves, and of course about the brand that gets associated. So how PR has changed is, from the earned part we have also started moving towards the paid part, because many of them may not be earned in that sense. And hence public relation has also started understanding the element of what was earlier part of media planning. They have also now started understanding that element as well. And when you reach out to these cat A or mega influencers, you have to speak to them about how can brand fix in their storytelling. It is about, they're still speaking to their audience. So a case in point is a Bhavan Bam's storytelling will be different from, let's say, a Kapil Sharma storytelling. And therefore one needs to understand which target audience they are reaching out to and what will fit in well. And that's what a PR agency or a PR person brings to the table.
Can I add something here?
Sure, sir. You're most welcome. Please.
So no, at the same time, we also need to remember that influencers are, you can convert them into your advocates, but they are also advocates for anybody who pays them. So your story is very important. You have to tell stories which are believable, which are real stories with real people. You can only get influencers to, spread the story, maybe create awareness. Samir mentioned a few of them. Now, to create awareness about a project or a product, you can still use them. But to be able to create more love and also to get conversion for sales, you will really need to utilize your own channels with your own stories. Am I right?
So the content
Absolutely
part,
right. Content is important. And what Maithili ma'am, what Partha sir is also talking about is the engagement rate is important. While the awareness is of course you can use these guys to create awareness, but as you move down the level of awareness and finally to the conversion part of it, conversion will only happen when your story is believable, it's human, and they feel that yes, I can relate to this this character or this storytelling. uh, so yes, all parts. So we have in PR we have an acronym which is called the paid, earned, owned, and shared media. And therefore how do you make sure that all these are put together? There's an element that needs to be played at every point of time. Brands which are well aware, like Samsung, may not use the awareness part of it because awareness is already there. So they might use, so each will have their own marketing or communication strategy to figure out which part of the, sometimes, for example, now there is a rise of something called micro influencers. As I mentioned, Nitin may not be a mega influencer, but he's definitely a micro influencer, or Partha is a micro influencer in the community that they are in. And when they speak, there is a huge amount of engagement that happens with them. but I may not have a same kind of an engagement with, let's say, Deepika Padukone or Alia Bhatt, because they're mega influencers. They might be millions of followers, but they don't engage with their followers, right? But for us, we engage with our followers or with our friends, and because of which, that conversion rate is much better. The believability factor, something that you mentioned, for humans is much more than for someone that you don't believe in. So that's the crux.
And
And
that
PR
is
needs to
where the
understand.
issue of purpose comes in, because brands really need to tell the world what they stand for. The generation which is on the social media or the digital media, they are a different breed altogether. They are consuming content of all types on their devices, and it's a borderless world for them. What happens in the US, they can influence sitting here, right? What happens in some other country, they can influence. People sitting in Canada are trying to talk about what is happening in our country. We know about some things that are happening right now.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
that's how this new digital medium is all about. And that is the reason that, you need to build this purpose, like Nitin was talking about. During the lockdown period, we did a lot of, communications around the citizenship activities, donations to the COVID funds and all those things. And those are the things that the consumers were really concerned about. Is this company, putting in enough effort to help us during the COVID times? Are they donating money to the PM Cares Fund, for example? Or, are they going and distributing, some things for the needy people, right? So when the Prime Minister, RT'd our tweet, we got a huge engagement for the tweet, and people really like the fact that, Samsung was doing something for the community. Okay. When Mr. Bachchan wrote for us, Mr. Amitabh Bachchan actually wrote for the newsroom. He did not write about Samsung. He only wrote about smartphones, because that is what the consumer doesn't want to talk about, you to tell them about your product and brand too much. You understand? They just want to tell whether they are more interested, whether, your views on burning crackers on Diwali, or maybe on gender issues. What are your views, right? So those kind of things. So I think when we are building those contents, we'll have to keep these things in mind.
Sure, so I totally agree. I would just, there are a lot of questions that coming up. We would take this. The second question is to all. I think, in terms of public relations, what can be done to kickstart your recovery when the crisis actually dies down?
I think I'll start with that. Then others can add in. I think we are firstly. I think we should all understand we're a service industry, right? So a lot of I'm talking from a PR agency perspective, right? A lot of that depends on all of lot of the other sectors and how well they do also. So for PR firms who are more exposed to a lot of health and tech clients, they probably haven't suffered that much. They've probably grown. And PR firms that have had a more exposure to consumer, retail, entertainment kind of business or hospitality, they've actually suffered. So until those sectors come up on their own, those firms will also not come out of it, right? So it's the PR. A lot of the PR firms are also dependent on the kind of clients you work with. Having said that, I think what we are already seeing in the industry is slowly a lot of clients in these sectors are coming out and restarting activities. A lot of clients who had stopped work in the early days, in the early months of COVID, have restarted PR activities in the last 3-4 months. Some clients who had cut budgets, they're slowly increasing budgets as well, or at least starting with low budget, but at least starting work, right? So all that has happened, but a lot depends honestly on how the economy also does, right? So we would in that sense be dependent on a lot of the work on how consumers have the confidence to travel again. Do they have the confidence of staying in a hotel again? Do they have the confidence of going out and eating out again? All that will depend a lot on how we do as well. But tech or consumer tech or fintech, health tech, all those sectors are very strong and doing really well.
So just to add to that, I think digitization is here to stay. I think everything is now going to get digitized. You're seeing education get digitized. I'm sure most of your classes are now being held on the e-platform. You've seen the valuation of Byju's White Hat Juniors. The kind of valuation they got during this time. Also, the fact that as more and more masses enter into this internet world, the the rise of conversation commerce from e-commerce is going to shift, which means whatever the issues on tech part was for e-commerce companies, they are now going to see more of the conversational commerce coming in, which means you will see Insta, people are going to buy it right there. You will see Alexa, people are going to say, add this to my cart. So when you're speaking, and therefore the conversation is going to move to their language, you will see more and more Hindi, Bengali, Kannada, Telugu, those people coming on internet and for searching than people speaking English. So from a PR perspective, we need to understand regional languages, vernaculars are going to go further, because they are going to then rule the market. You look at Netflix, you look at Amazon Prime, the way they are now available in multi-language is on a testimony that in India at least, the native language or the local language is going to rule the marketplace. So from a PR perspective, I think what we need to do is, as far as kickstarting is concerned, Nathan has already said, what is the incentive that the government is going to give to SMEs, what is the incentive that the government is going to give to various sectors, that will define how PR will work, because we are not the industry itself, we are dependent on how the business does. So therefore, if business does well, we will also do well. But from a gearing up perspective, I think we need to understand SMEs, MSMEs, how they are going to talk to their target audience, and as mentioned, there is going to be a sentiment that they will use.
I think there is some network issue. Yes, sir. Yes,
Towards the, I
yes,
think
sir.
it's okay.
Partha sir, would you like to comment on the same about how you could kickstart your
Yeah,
whole
sure.
this?
No, from my company's perspective, we saw that the moment the unlock began, there was a huge pent up demand. That also, of course, it helps us understand how we have shifted to digital, because everybody wanted their smartphones back in their hands. If they had a problem, they wanted to buy a new phone and start business again, right? So whether you are at home or in offices or wherever, you can't do without a phone today, right? There was a huge, the companies which sell laptops and tablets, all of them reported, huge sales immediately after the unlock, started. So the industry, of course, is seeing that, consumers moving to digital. But I'm not very sure, whether, we are completely going digital. Like somebody asked that question, people, will we want to go back and watch movies in the theaters? Will we go back to the malls to buy our, dresses? I think as humans, we really rely on touch and the production of oxytocins in the body, which
Feel.
are called the love hormones. And we really want. We are humans. We would want to get back, but I think somewhere there will be a marriage of both, and but a lot would have changed from the beginning of the lockdown to where we are today, and in the future there will be a huge shift towards digital. But having said that, there's no doubt that the shift to digitization has been hastened by the pandemic and the lockdown.
True. Thank you, sir. One of our faculty members, Ms. Geetika Vashisht, wants to put up a question. Geetika ma'am, over to you.
Um, Good evening, everyone. I think it was very nice to hear, we got to know about the latest trends and challenges. So one thing I want to ask, citing certain example, like, you have talked about purpose. Dettol have come up with the ad, that it's good to wash your hands, whatever soap you can use. In fact, I was also, reading about Netflix that there is a recent study where it was said, please don't watch Netflix in HD format because it's emitting more carbon. So the point is that where the purpose and objective, is there, especially from the perspective of environment friendliness, how you are going to place such concerns and issues in your PR communication strategy vis-a-vis, the revenue and its impact on environment. Because, watching Netflix on HD is a great attraction. But again, it's impacting environment too. So how come such issues and concern can be placed in your communication strategies?
Ma'am, I'll just say one thing: if you follow your purpose, profits will follow. That's the new mantra, honestly. And if you like I mentioned, a study which we did about last year, 2019, when before COVID, right? There were 53% people said we want to see functionality and purpose in a product, and that's why you have products like Dettol and Netflix saying, Dettol saying wash it with any soap, but wash your hands, right? Or Netflix saying watch it on lower HD, lower quality because to emit less carbon. Um, and that's why it's saying, because we want a good product but we want the brand to have purpose. Honestly, that's the core. Second thing very important in this also is that when you look at revenue or profits today, look at levers, for example. It's a great example of how they've followed a philosophy of purpose completely, totally. And they've actually been attacked by a lot of the shareholders as well around the fact that it's not working, but it's taken them 3 years for that purpose to come in, become profitability. So it's a matter of time. A lot of big corporates, I think, are following that philosophy, and they will come out in front, in my view.
Yeah, so just to add on to that, because Nitin took Liver's example, look at Dove as an example. They've taken on beauty industry in 2004, and they actually debunked the known norms of what a beautiful woman looks like, and they have been following to to the T. And if you look at again the market capitalization of Dove versus all other brands in the beauty segment, Dove has outperformed all of them. And like Nathan said, if you have the purpose, profits will follow. So there is, of course, I'm not saying they will not do the short-term sales contest and campaigns. They will do it, but there is a long-term and a short-term market, and both of them have to work together. There will be certain campaigns, certain discounts, certain things that will happen, but the brands that follow a purpose will be more loved ones than the brands that don't follow the purpose.
Okay,
I think,
sure.
I
Yeah,
think that
thank you,
that's,
sir.
in fact, I think that is one of the important sort of revelations of these times. The fact that, because of this crisis, I think we got the time to introspect, and the brands got a time sort of, have understood the reason and purpose of being considerate to causes, to having a purpose and moving on. I think that's like one of the very major shift that has happened. And hopefully, as this particular forum tells me, that PR is completely geared up to take it up. I think brands are going to more and more want to be towards having the purpose, having larger good in their mind, rather than simple marketing selling instincts. I mean, I think that's one of the important take that I'm getting out of the discussion that we are having today. And that's going to be a shift in the way we look at advertising, even when we are teaching it to our students here. Yes.
Well, ma'am, I'll take up the last question for today, and it is from one of our students of advertising, which you were just talking about. Well, Jatin Sharon, he says that, so what about the frequency of advertisements? Like many companies, a lot of times spam their ads everywhere. So what happens is that the audience becomes ignorant of the ad. So how does a company deal with the frequency of advertisement that has to be shown to the audience? Well, to all of you.
So
Yeah,
can I
more and
go first?
more audience. Yeah, sure, sir. Sure, please.
Okay. So if you see, what I notice is that, whenever you see an ad on YouTube, and it says that, you can skip after 4 seconds or 5 seconds, you wait for those 5 seconds and you skip it most of the times, right? So you're more interested in the content than the ad. And it happens all the time, wherever you are, right? And I think that question also emanates from the fact that whoever has asked this question is actually not very happy about, ad spamming them. And that is where, like all of us were discussing today, the importance of communications. If you can tell your stories well, you may not require an ad to be, telling, pushing those stories to the consumer, to the target audience.
And
So you see
also,
more shift towards, communications over a period of time, as Samir was pointing out, and Nitin was also saying right in the beginning.
Yes, sure.
yeah, so what Partha sir is saying is right, because you would see more and more ads blockers are now being downloaded by people. The reason why there is a rise of OTT platforms like Amazon Prime and Netflix is because I don't want to see ads. I'm interested in watching the content. And therefore, for from a PR perspective, if the brands can uh, come inside that storytelling, I think there will be a better way of connecting with the target audience rather than just spamming the person with those ads, because spamming is something that everyone hates, and we're just going to block them over a period of time. There are a lot of ad blockers that are now available on mobile phones, and many of my students have actually downloaded them, and they've taught me how to download so that I don't see those ads ever again.
Yeah, good,
And
good,
I think
good, good owned media, good your own media, good owned media will give you a lot of free owned media. And Samsung, in my view, the newsroom is the biggest example of that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
true. So related to the topic, I think another of our student has asked something that taking the purpose forward, like should brands actually give up the targeted ads we're talking about? Like considering the lack of privacy as shown in the documentaries like the social dilemma and everything. So should they give up the targeted ads?
Well, I think eventually it'll be a good combination of paid, earned, and owned, right? So I think I don't think it's yes, brands should stand for a purpose, and I know a lot of global companies have stopped advertising on platforms like Facebook, right? Because they've taken a stand against privacy. Now that's different from doing targeted ads if as long as you have customer permission. So if you have permission to if you have permission to do an ad to, if I'm okay receiving an ad, if I'm searching for shoes, and I'm okay with the brand sending an ad to me about shoes, that's okay. But if I'm not, then I shouldn't be getting those ads. I think that's what the brands have done globally. So should they give ads? Yes, as long as they have customer permission to do it.
Thank you so much,
In
sir.
fact, this is the classic question that PR and advertising have been sort of delving with throughout, whether one is over the other, and one is, and even in the classrooms, we take this whole thing of trying to make that distinction. But the point is that, as Partha puts it, put it all under communication, and then see whether it has to be paid or it has to be,
Correct.
something that has to have a purpose. And also it is important that to understand what exactly are you trying to say. There is some information that has to be direct, and it has to be given, and that's where advertising is important. And there are stories that actually do not need to be told in that short while, so many seconder and so many those kind of things are not important. So I guess what we are trying to talk about here is how throughout this particular difficult time that we are just coming out of, into a world which kind of is going to be a little different from what we have been used to, we see that public relation has been able to figure out a few things. And that is what I would even like to sum up here, from the discussion. We found that this connect of purpose, very important. The whole concept of telling your story and telling it genuinely, meaning those stories. And I would also say that when these stories are told by the brand themselves, I think they become more convincing, they become more sort of trustable, more something that people actually connect to directly. That's another important thing that I figure out we are talking about. Yes, and that we are stepping into the digital world, that the digital reality is our new reality. Whether we like it or not, we are one thing in the offline mode. We definitely have a kind of clonish image on our virtual world, where also we are being stalked, we are being seen, we are being digitized and looked into as a data. So all this is our reality, and this is what we are moving towards. But from a perspective of media, I think this is happy news. I think we have shown the kind of character that we always have been proud of being able to understand the importance of what human connect is all about, the importance of storytelling, which has always been what media has wanted to do. And I see this positivity very much don't want to keep the gentleman waiting. Again, from the management of Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies, I would like to thank each one of you, Nitin, Mantri, Partha Ghosh, Samir Kapoor. Thank you so very much for enlightening us and telling us your stories and perspective. My students, my colleagues, and all the viewers here do realize that this has been a perfect treat. Listening from all of you together in one forum is like a dream come true for every media person. Thank you so much, and keep inspiring us. Looking forward to meeting you sometime very soon. And thank you, viewers, for your time, your patience. I'm sure you enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Take care. Thank you.